Here we go.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Love Coach Scott Thomas, and I am so happy to have my partner back. Omoshar is back from Japan. We know it was an extraordinary time there. And really, we all are kind of basking in the glow of this incredible Peace Week, culminating with the International Day of Peace, where Omoshar was in Japan with so many of our beloved friends. I was in San Francisco, and many of you were watching it on Hubcast. We've got a great show tonight. It's another edition of Authors That We Love. And we have three authors with us, and we love each and every one of them. So you're going to meet our authors, hear about their books. But let's start off by hearing from our beloved brother, Omoshar, just a few highlights of his time in Japan, and he might even play a tune for us.
Well, konnichiwa, everybody, and arigato gozaimasu for being here. Look that up. And I am absolutely filled with love and hope and tranquility and just overjoyed with the experience I've just had. But, you know, there's only one of us here, so tune into the consciousness. And we all have had it, because there was something in one of Pato and Antoinette's videos that says, we rise by lifting another. And what I found in Japan, without even getting into the tour, I won't be too long with this chat right now. We'll have a deal with it some other time with some videos and photos, was that the Japanese culture, the Japanese people are probably from what I've experienced from my 38 countries that I've been in around the world, are the most respectful, the most innocent, the most beautiful race that I have ever experienced, ever. And that is saying a lot, because it's saying more than I did before. Anyway, so we went from Tokyo. We had an amazing time in Tokyo. I would not want to live in Tokyo. It's such a massive city, unbelievable. However, so we're going to fast forward to Mount Fuji, where we had 700 people turn up, local people that traveled, some of them for a couple of thousand miles, to be there for the Unity Earth concert that was at a place called the Mount Fuji Sanctuary. Mount Fuji herself, as a volcano, a mountain, if you got quiet and just tuned into Mount Fuji, she would talk to you directly. I almost couldn't believe it, except that I know that stuff is real, that I don't have to get over my woo-woo judgment anymore. And I felt Mount Fuji, the power of the mountain in my heart, and then the power of almost 700 Japanese peace pilgrims who turned up at the Peace Sanctuary in Mount Fuji. We all joined together, and with translators and with just the presence of each other, we came to just a beautiful high. It's hard to put into words because it's all really a feeling, but it was a feeling of complete consciousness, no conflict, and just everybody respecting everybody and coming from the heart. And there were some amazing musicians there from Israel and from South America, and of course, beloved Kristen was there, and I was blessed by being allowed to play there as well. And I even opened up the day with a song called The Wonderful and the New, which I've played several times on the Global Peace Tribe show. So this is almost the end of the synopsis. And then we went to Hiroshima. Hiroshima, not Hiroshima. Hiroshima is the way the Western world fumbles their way through it. Hiroshima, we went there by bullet train. Unbelievable. 300 miles an hour in a bullet train. Gosh. Inside, you don't notice at all, but if you watch one coming past at the railway station, it's like, really? They go that fast? And they have these bird beaks so that they don't take off, well, without the wings. And in Hiroshima, it was just the most deepest, heartfelt, still radioactive place that I have ever been to, ever. We went to the Peace Memorial, which is a bizarre description of somewhere there's a peace memorial, which showed you actually what happened from the moment the B-52 came over and dropped its bomb and wiped out a whole effing civilization. Holy crap, I'm still feeling it. And none of us really know. And yes, it's in the past, but the healing that has had to take place there is not only for the race that was there, but for the whole of humanity, because since that moment, they've carried the torch of peace in their hearts, and they're doing their absolute best to promulgate that, to extend that through the world. And this is May Peace Prevail on Earth. This is from the Goi Foundation in Mount Fuji, and their founder, I'm sorry, I don't know his name, Mr. Goi, he made up this saying, but it was translated not quite right, because his original saying was not "May peace come to earth," but "Peace now exists on earth." He was owning it in his consciousness as if peace is here now. And so we had an amazing live stream concert there, phenomenal, with Pato and Antoinette and the Israel musicians with the traditional oud and the djembe, and Kristen Hoffman just being the absolute divine goddess that she is in song, so we could all feel it. And then we had an amazing time the next day where we were right by the river in Hiroshima, where after the bomb, there was thousands of bodies just floating down this river. And so as a token, we did a concert on both sides of the river. We were given permission by the government to have on one side of the river, which is maybe, I don't know, 500 meters wide, we had a sound system and a tent and people playing. On the other side of the river was us and our sound system and people playing. And we were just watching and applauding to each other, including all the local Japanese people who turned up for that day of peace. And we created this rainbow bridge. And so anyway, that is as far as I'm going to go now. I've done it in like a microsecond. And we're going to play a song now called Another Dawn. Because we are in the day of the new dawning of the whole of humanity. And it may not seem like that on the outer world, but those of us who are tuning in on the inner and in the consciousness can actually feel it. We are rising by lifting each other and doing our best to stop the judgment and blah, blah, blah. We know that route and that metaphysical teaching. And this song, Another Dawn, which we've heard before on the show, is about every time we wake up in the morning, we have the innocent child wanting to come out with us into our day. And then what happens often is the adult logical mind comes in and attempts to say, no, we got things to do. So here we go. Woohoo! Just going to change mic source. Remember that one, Joseph? And there's that. And there's that. And there's this. And rough. Another dawn, another day.
innocent child coming your way. I've been wondering about my life. Oh yeah, wondering about my state of mind. But then I heard, who is it for? If not for yourself, how do you feel? And why do you cry, 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 cry? And shooby-doo-wop. The sun is warming up my mind. Ocean breeze blows me away. And yet still I've been wondering about my life. Oh yeah, wondering who will take my place. But then I heard, who is it for? If not for yourself, how do you feel? And why do you cry, 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 cry? Who is it for? If not for yourself, how do you feel? And why do you cry, 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 cry? Who is it for? If not for yourself, how do you feel? So come on, let's fly. Come on, let's fly.
Let's all twinkle, beloved brother Omashar. It sure is good to have you back with us, brother.
Thank you so much. It feels like home. It feels like family. What a concept, right?
And who is it for? It's
Ourselves. Ourselves. Little I and the great I.
absolutely. Well, we have three authors that we love tonight. I'm really looking forward to really hearing from each of them. We're going to hear later on from Joseph Jacques and Melissa Fike. But we're going to start off. We are going to go all the way to Venice, Italy. That's right. We are now joined by Carolyn Hauser. She's been on the show once before. She, of course, lives in Sedona, but she is in Venice. And before you tell us about your book, tell us about your time in Venice, Carolyn. What brings you there, and what are some of the highlights?
Well, we're actually on an entire Italy and Greece island tour, which has been, and when I say we, it's Tim, my beloved, and I. It's really a treat and a celebration time for us because we've been working hard the past 2 years, and the book just came out in August. So this is just really for us to have a little vacation and have some romance outside of our regular life.
What are some of the other cities you visited in Italy?
We just started, so Venice was the first one. We are just about to fly to Rome today, and then we will actually go to the Greek islands, and then Naples and Pisa on the way back, and then back to the States.
Wow. Wow. Well, I am very, very envious. My wife and I, when we got married, we went on what we called the Honeython because it was a marathon of 8 countries in Europe. And I think our time in Italy was our favorite time. So, anyway, it's
Awesome.
very awesome. Well, you have written a wonderful book called The Bliss Codes. And tell us a little bit about the book.
Yes, so the Bliss Codes is really a culmination of 10 years of just searching, and well, not just 10 years, but I'm 46 now, and I fell in love for the first time when I was 15. I was on cloud nine, and it imploded within 4 months, and I didn't understand it. And who else here has ever struggled in intimate relationships? So, anyways, needless to say, I struggled in relationships, first with myself and then in intimate relationships a lot, a lot, a lot, and just didn't want to accept that it was just going to be hard in my life. And I would, I wouldn't see a lot of people around me that had what I wanted, but bit by bit, I started putting the pieces together. And about 8 years ago, well, I should say I'm a fully trained family constellations facilitator from Germany. That helped bring a lot of clarity into my life. But moving on from there, about 8 years ago, I came across research that pointed out or suggested that part of our predicament or part of the reason why we struggle so much in intimate relationship is actually due to the way that we make love or not make love, because um, there's neurochemical things that go on that if we're not aware of it, will make it so that within a shorter or a little bit longer time, when the honeymoon feelings go, we start struggling in relationships. And so 8 years ago, I full on dove into this, what's called Karetsa, White Tantra. There's other names for it. I call it bliss bonding. And it's really changed my relationship life completely and that of a lot of clients. And so the bliss codes is really, my clients started begging me to just write a book that's easy to understand and to follow. So it's a very conversationally written book. It's only 150 pages, and it's meant to give people a way to just have kind of like an introduction to what is this new way of relating, basically, in a way that's easy to understand, because it can get quite complex with all the neuroscience and things like that.
I'm going to go for a moment to your website, Carolyn. And it says, attention, spiritual single women that want to be in sacred union. And our demographics show that about 70% of our audience are single women. So you've got a free training coming up.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the free training. And I want to encourage everybody watching on Facebook, and welcome, by the way, all of our friends watching on Facebook, to go to her website, and it's her name, Carolyn, Carolin. There's no E in there. So it's Carolyn, Carolyn, no E, Hauser, HAUSER.com. And what you want to do is you want to put your name in, and you want to put your email address in there, just like I'm doing right now, so that you can get some goodies. And what are people going to get? And I will also take people to grab your seat right now.
So yeah, when I looked back, what I realized that I had 6 different things in place before the universe literally handed me Tim on a silver platter. And so the training, actually, and it's readily available when you opt in. In that training, I shared kind of like what those 6 things were, so that you can get a step closer. And anybody who's here, I'm sure, is spiritual and very spiritual. And for us that are very interested in having something more sacred and something with more depth, regular dating advice just does not apply. And so I had to come to a place where I had some very clear boundaries around what I was calling in, because I wasn't treating the whole process of calling in my partner, or I had fears around being too strict or being too spiritual, or being, judged by people. Also feeling like I was just looking for a needle in the haystack, and I didn't know if it was even possible. Did I want too much, kind of? And so I share about the insights and then also the process in that training.
Well, I just got to ask, were you asking for too much? I know we want people to read the whole book, but that's such a fascinating lead in. I'm a single man, and I know I'm very picky and selective. I'd like to be in a relationship, but I'm very, very specific about what I'd like to experience. So what did you discover, at least for yourself?
I discovered, first of all, that I truly was somebody who wanted to be in a sacred union, and I had to be really clear about that and not be wishy-washy and be like, what would happen with me is like I would start dating somebody, and they were kind of new to the spiritual path, and not that there's any judgment or anything like that, but they were totally gung-ho about everything that I was sharing, but they didn't have a practice and were really living it. And then when it came, the Bliss Codes are very much about daily practices. And so when it came to really practicing these practices that have to do with deeply bonding, they were really not up for the task, And so it really took finding somebody that actually had evidence and a track record in their lives, like somebody that already had a daily practice like I do, as one of the sorting mechanisms, basically, to really look for somebody who's clearly spiritual, not just talking it. Right. So that was kind of the traps that I would keep falling into. I would fall in, I would fall in love with people that had a lot of book knowledge. But then when it came down to it, they weren't really kind or generous or patient, which to me, those are qualities of somebody who's truly spiritual,
That's beautiful.
That makes sense.
It does. What comes up though, because as you know, I'm a relationship coach, and just today I was working with a couple that the honeymoon phase is over. They have a newborn baby, and they're going through hard stuff.
Yeah.
When you talk about for the single women looking for the guy who's already doing practices, what comes to mind is that I know a lot more women that do daily practice than men who do daily practice. So any thoughts about that?
Well, I think yes and no, because I think there's more and more men. So I meet a lot of men actually who tell me the same things. They feel like they are doing the work and the women aren't doing the work.
So, well, there you go.
Like probably yourself, Yeah. So it just takes one, you just need to find that one person. So yeah, there is more and more men who also really are working on themselves, who want this deeper connection and are waking up, I would say.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm going to go back to your website. This is where you go after subscribing. What a beautiful picture.
Thank you.
I do assume that's you and Tim.
Yes.
And again, this is after you put in the email address. And then people get to listen to the Sacred Union Attraction mini workshop. So tell us a little bit about what they're going to hear when they listen to that.
They're going to hear a little bit about my story, and then they're going to hear also how Tim and I met, because it was really a magical story. And then they hear about the 6 steps that it took to call him. And then the first step was really to have this clarity around really wanting to have a sacred union and not feeling shy about it, not feeling bad about it. And then at the time that I met Tim, I had already learned about bliss bonding. And it basically suggests to treat lovemaking and relating into intimacy very, very differently. And so it was my job to bring it to the relationship. But I do believe that it's mostly the woman's jobs to bring this to the relationship. And it took courage. So in the training, I share about what bliss bonding is and how you can use it as a sorting tool. And I truly believe that if I hadn't had that knowledge and had the boundaries in place, that I would probably still be single, because my picker was completely broken and I would just end up with just not people that could bond with me. And the bliss bonding, so the lovemaking practices have very much to do with learning to bond with each other in the process, heal with each other, heal all the attachment style stuff, heal all at this point in life, when we're in the second half of our lives, we do all have baggage. The guys have it, we have it. And so it's this beautiful process of lovemaking and bonding with each other, but also healing all the emotional baggage that we each bring into the relationship and bond through that too.
That is really powerful. Again, as a coach, I'm loving hearing this, Carolyn, because unfortunately, we grow up as children, at least, with this fairy tale. You find the perfect person and then you live happily ever after. Such a terrible lie to tell children, right? And of course, as you're describing, and real bonding comes from, hey, these are my wounds, these are my issues, this is my family stuff, and being able to talk about it and work it through. That is, at least from my perspective, beautiful bonding. And I'm guessing from what I'm hearing, that's part of bliss bonding. Yeah.
Yes. So bliss bonding is a practice where you basically you learn to make love in a different way, and you learn to do it on a daily schedule where sometimes it includes intercourse, and sometimes it truly just includes bonding behaviors that are deeply ingrained in our brain to give us pleasure and rewards, because we have an oxytocin system in our brain that we all have, right? Because we all have the potential to be parents. And unless we would truly bond to the newborn baby, we would probably not go through years of dirty diapers and not sleeping and so forth. So generally in lovemaking, the reward comes from dopamine, and dopamine puts us on a roller coaster and makes it so that dopamine also gets released by novelty. So novelty, which goes away over a little bit or a longer amount of time. So when we help our brain to switch over to the good feeling oxytocin hormone, the honeymoon feelings can truly stay and can last. And it also makes it so that you're peaceful, relaxed, communication problems fall away, a lot of health issues fall away. And it's really a lot has to do with just retraining your brain. And you do that through a daily practice and having really clarity around what you're doing when you're connecting, so that the brain and the amygdala and your nervous system can relax, and you can truly learn to receive from another, and also feel safe that when the other person touches you, it's not always just about sex, but also really there for comforting and bonding and receiving.
Wow, beautiful. I have found your book on Amazon. It's easy to find. So I'm going to go to the Amazon page. Just put in the bliss codes and it comes right back up. How to create and sustain sacred union love. So it's easy to find. You can get it on Amazon. Carolyn, where does epigenetics come into play for you here? Where does that is part of the bliss bonding and part of the processing include working on ancestral family patterning?
So when we work with clients, we always do it as a combination with family constellations and working through the patterns while the couple learns how to do this bliss bonding thing, So in my experience, the success recipe is really doing the family constellations and learning bliss bonding together.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I know you need to go to Rome, but
I have to. No,
for those who are in a relationship, can you give one tool, just a little taster of something that people in a relationship long term, because we have got couples like Roger and Bonnie,
yes.
And Eleanor Joy and Ian, Connie and Andrew, Sonia and Jeffrey. So we've got several couples with us. What's one tip for some bliss bonding you can pass on?
Yes, and I just want to encourage everybody, because we have worked with 30 couples last year. 28 of them, they all came to us with one struggle or another. 28 of them successfully turned their relationships around by learning these things. People that have been in sexless situations, people that have been in volatile situations, people they were in sexless situations because of hormonal issues. So it really is in my opinion, the key to helping you turn it around, no matter where you're at. Like we've had couples that are in their 60s and 70s and feel like they're and been together for 40 years that feel like they're back to where they started dating. And the best way to start is to intentionally, and it will feel weird in the beginning if you have gotten into a place where you're not touching anymore a lot, or where you're just kind of living side by side, or also if you're used to having touch connected to just having sex, basically. If you just start hugging each other intentionally for 20 to 30 minutes a day, and like I said, it might feel weird in the beginning, but just hang in there and allow yourself to breathe with each other. The longer you can go, the more the oxytocin will start flowing, and the more you'll start feeling good. That's like one of the first things that you can start doing. And then there's a lot of practices, and actually the how-to is in the book with videos that we've created. And so the book is not just a book, but it comes with a lot of resources to help you learn this.
Wow, that's amazing, because one of the things, Carolyn, that I have every couple I work with do is hold each other every day for at least 30 minutes. And I always say the point is to be able to relax into each other, no talking.
Yes.
Like if you're going to talk, just simple, I love you, this feels good. But to really, we're mammals and we need
Yes.
homeostasis, and we need to learn how to co-regulate. And so by
Yes.
holding each other and dropping in like that, it creates co-regulation, and it does bring people closer together. And I have the same thing. People who had not had sex in years, and you don't hold each other for the purpose of moving into sexuality, but very
Exactly.
often it just creates the safety and the reconnection, and then it does lead to more intimacy, more emotional intimacy, as well as physical intimacy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody, once again, The Bliss Codes by Carolyn Hauser. You can get it on Amazon, and definitely go to her website. And again, her website is her name, Carolyn, Carolin, Hauser, Hauser. I also am seeing that if you go to sacredunionlove.com, that takes you straight to this beautiful picture of Carolyn and Tim. Carolyn, I'm so impressed with your personal story. So happy for you. And I really appreciate you taking some time to be on the show with us tonight. And
Thanks for having me.
Enjoy Rome.
We will.
That's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We're going to go to our second person in a moment, but I am going to read some of the comments that have come in from our audience, because I love you guys. Susan Bloomquist writes, yes, taking naps together is nice. And she's appreciating watching Ian and Eleanor putting their heads together. Melissa writes, that was great, Carolyn. By the way, Melissa and Carolyn both are Sedona residents, and thank you to Soul Search and Tenchila for introducing me to these two wonderful women. Susan also wrote, I hear if one is learning in relationships, then bonds can occur. And Eleanor Joy wrote something wonderful. She wrote, I just want to say, Ian wasn't much into a spiritual practice, although he did have something that sort of worked. However, through Eleanor's introductions, he now loves the awakening world, as well as Stargate and Acel, some of the people that you've met, of course, through our show. He's grown beautifully into deep spiritual practice, and it continues to grow each day, each week. It's been tough sometimes, but ultimately fulfilling for him and for both of us. So thank you, Eleanor Joy, and I'm putting the spotlight on you two. There he is. So that's a beautiful testimonial. And now you guys are going to have to get the Bliss codes and practice all of that. Fantastic. Let's see what else is here. Just some really, people really appreciating what you shared. Oh, Carol from Rhode Island writes, I'm going to have to read this book. I think it's evident that when I meet the right person, book knowledge will not be all there is. I feel there are basic values that must be shared. The details are not important to me. So that's beautiful. All right. Well, we are going to go to our next author, and it is Joseph Jacques. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly, Joseph. We do need you to unmute.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Jacques. I'm a Frenchman. I'm a
Yeah,
Frenchman.
So
Yes.
no Jacques, just Jacques.
Yeah, like Jacques Cousteau, you know, the great underwater explorer. Actually, a funny side note, Scott, my father, a little history here. My father started a scuba shop in Columbus, Ohio in 1968. And that his name, of course, Jacques, you know, Jacques Cousteau. I mean, you know,
Right.
the irony is my father started signing out, you know,
Oh, right.
yeah, I know, odd, right? But that was the beginning of this youngster's start into a mythic life, actually.
Beautiful. Well, you are the author of Legends of Creation, a
Hmm.
father's role in pregnancy and a mother's journey in becoming, a 15 legacy course that starts 6 to 9 months before conception and 9 months in utero. And the book has a foreword from two of our favorites, Dr. Jean Houston and Bruce Lipton. We just had Bruce on the show a few weeks ago. And you say this book is 3 decades in the making. So tell us about Legends of Creation.
Well, thank you. Number one, I want to acknowledge you and the whole team behind what you guys are doing. It's so important, really, to provide a platform for community and really to find its meaningful center. I feel that that's, Scott, what you're doing is finding a meaningful center in our community, almost a genuine evolutionary narrative conversation that we get to have that it lifts and inspires and motivates us all. So, my friend, thank you. Thank you. I'm very grateful. Legends of Creation, like I started off with the story, I started off with a story about my dad. My dad taught me to scuba dive when I was 3 years old. And that experience really blew my whole worldview. As a 3-year-old, whew, you know, I mean, there's a lot happening there. And for your father to teach his son how to scuba dive when he was 3 really connected me back to the womb and a lot of womb memories. And I had some major visions later on that moved me towards this revelation of prenatal psychology as well as theater production, social theater production. And so, yeah, you know, my dad says surfaces can be seen, but depths need to be explored. And yeah, right. That was a cool line from Pops, and he ran a scuba shop in Columbus, Ohio, for 50 years. So watching a man do something absolutely, completely, and totally unreasonable in the community was what my dreams were based on, is doing something absolutely, completely unreasonable for the community. And so here we are with Legends of Creation. A little history on me. I know there's some people who have followed my journey. I am the co-founder of Harmonic Humanity, which is an organization that creates jobs for the homeless through art and music. And we're on our 3rd album right now called Hero, which features Jason Mraz, Michael Franti, Maroon 5, and Sarah McLachlan. And that album is, I'm launching it here in Columbus, Ohio, where I'm here with my dad, spending good quality time with the family. And so it's, you know, I spent a lot of time on the streets. And Scott, you were talking, I think, about earlier about relational deprivation and relational repair. And yeah.
Oh, please continue.
Yeah, and so, you know, there was a lot of learning, a lot of humility, a lot of trauma on the streets, a lot of addiction, so much you get to be with, and it's so humbling. It humbles you in so many different ways to be on the streets and be in the midst of all of that. And I think Spirit really wanted me to understand the depths of trauma, the depths of addiction, and you know, have another piece of humble pie and just be full on present with the gratitude in my heart, full on present with that I came here for a reason. And it all, as that was all happening, Harmonic Humanity, I had a vision that started when I was 22 that was about prenatal development. And that vision that I had when I was 22, I think came from my awareness of womb memories. And so having my experience, the experience that I've had with working with the homeless and the marginalized and the veterans and the disabled on the streets, it really it's paved the way for this book that I'm presenting now to the whole audience. And it's called Legends of Creation: A Father's Role in Pregnancy, a Mother's Journey in Becoming. And the book is a 15-month class. It starts 6 to 9 months before conception and goes 9 months in utero. So to A, heal the intergenerational wound, and B, amplify genius before conception. Before birth. So we have an opportunity to get clear about our intergenerational trauma as well as the genius. Everybody kind of talks about the trauma, and that's so important to relieve. It's so important to dissolve like salt in water to some degree. But it's also important to talk about our gifts, our wound and our gifts, our archetypal pairings, and they name the meaningful energy for meaningful change and inner growth and renewal. And so to start a program before conception where the mother and the father get very, very, very clear about their trauma that was handed down by their family, and their, it's an intergenerational trauma that's handed down. And my conversation that I had with Bruce Lipton was that very subject, that, hey, we want to start this before genetics and epigenetics. And so we want to start before sperm meets egg, so we can really alleviate all these inauthentic scripts that we carry forward in our lives. I think you're on mute, Scott.
There's
There
an
you go.
interesting question that's come in from the chat box.
Cool.
And it's from Sylvia, one of our regulars, wanting to know what the shop's name. She's currently in Columbus, grew up 30 miles east, brother was a lifeguard, and she's wondering if the name of that shop was Subaquatics.
Nope, not Subaquatics. Thanks for asking, though. Subaquatics was a competitor. We were Central Ohio School of Diving. That was the name of our scuba shop.
Okay, well,
That's funny. What are the odds on something like that? I love that. Thanks. Thank you so much for bringing that forward.
that is for a moment I thought, wow, this is going to be quite synchronistic, but still that he's in Columbus and you're there. So Joseph, tell us about the outcome.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Well, to measure the long-term effects of preconception education and prenatal bonding on the child's later development, psychology, health, awareness. We're talking about getting very clear, the parents getting very clear for before conception about their trauma and their genius. So the book Legends of Creation is a very much of an artist way. It's guided by one of our team of coaches that is a coach in birth psychology as well as a doula and midwife. So it's a combination. So you get a coach in your 15-month experience, again, 6 to 9 months before conception, getting clear about relation, getting clear about past traumas, getting clear about genius in family. And then in utero, within the context of the book, there's a section where the mother and the father and the coach get very clear about the mother and the father designing their own learning in utero program for the child. So it's not something, I'm not going to, it'd be arrogant of me to create the learning in utero program that's very, individualistic for the development and the growth of the child. So that happens while in utero. So there's 2 parts, and those are the 2 parts: the getting very clear about the intergenerational wound and trauma, as well as the family dynamic. And then in utero, getting clear about bringing forward all the joy and the bliss and the energy and the wisdom that the mother and father would like to bequeath the unborn child. So this is very exciting. This is cutting edge, man. We Legends of Creation is this pattern interrupt, literally, that we're looking for culture. So anytime there's a relationship, anytime there is addiction, anytime there is mental illness, anytime there is chronic homelessness, you've got to get to the root, and the root is before conception. And I feel that if we can have that honest, very real, boots on the ground conversation, and this is a book that literally, if applied in the correct way, can heal so many different traumas in a one generational period of time. We have a study that I've got the names of Gene Houston, who's a part of, Bruce Lipton, who put his name on it, as well as Thomas Verney, who is the father of prenatal development. He put his name on the study that I created called the Healing Project. And the Healing Project states very, very boldly, and I think it's time, Scott, for very bold statements. It's time, man. It's time that we become activists in this sense, in the sense that the study is to reduce addiction, trauma, homelessness, and mental illness by 50 to 60% over one generational period of time through preconception education and prenatal bonding through Legends of Creation.
Wow.
And so that study, the idea of the study is to get funding and to move it forward. So again, to learn and not to do is really not to learn. So we want to make sure that we provide the curriculum for all of our listeners, everybody out there, so they can have the tools and distinctions, the skills, the philosophies that can move them into their great meaning map. And that's where we're at, brother. That's where we're at. So I'm excited.
I'm going to read some of the comments that have come in because we're getting a lot of comments. And there's a question there. Eleanor Joy writes, fabulous, Joseph, starting preconception and throughout pregnancy. Truly awesome and right on. Susan Bloomquist writes, I find your approach is very important. Sonia writes, very interesting. Yes, cutting edge, part of our Levolution. That's actually great.
Thank you.
And here's some questions for you. Susan is asking, how were you inspired to this subject? And then do you have evidence?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I think we all go through. I mean, I've had trauma in my life, and I've had genius in my life. And I've had a father who gave me such inspiration, and a mother who was so full of joy. I'm just like, we're that wonderful cross fertilization of for me, I'm the cross fertilization of diving as deep as I can and having an abundant, ridiculous amounts of joy. So I've been accused of just being overjoyed, and there's and I haven't. And I have to be very grateful for the fact that I don't have tremendous amounts of trauma. I work with those who do. And I just keep in mind that all weaved in all this curriculum is the hero's journey. I'm a big fan of Joseph Campbell, and I do work with Gene Houston, and Gene Houston actually worked with Joseph Campbell, which is unique and very powerful. And so it's just wonderful to start to have the conversation that yes, sometimes the worst things that we go through, Scott, put us on the path to the greatest thing that will ever happen to us. So there is a hero's journey of the trauma that we don't want to disregard. A spirit will create impossible dramas and persistent dilemmas in order to crack the shell of the half self, right? So we get to have the conversation of healing as well as embracing the great hero's journey of our time. And that, in essence, the separation, initiation, and return arc of Joseph Campbell's work plays out and meets us where we're at, but moves us forward. Anna Dea Judith, I think you've had on your show. She says the hero starts with the striving of an individual, but ends in the healing of a community.
So Susan says you were inspired by your parents. Ayada writes, Joseph, this is such wonderful work you're doing. I have a grandson in Columbus, a father of 4-year-old twins. I will definitely recommend your book and heart-centered work to him and his partner. And Therese writes, Monsieur Jacques, I am stunned. It feels like you're on the awakening world just for me. Bravo. I'll now explore my scuba diving memories from a deeper point of view.
Cool.
So really reaching people quite nicely. Now, how do we find the book?
Well, here's the interesting thing is right now it's online, and I'm teeter-tottering to have it open source. So I have classes going on. I'm working with I'm on my third client now. Very challenging, and I don't want to go into too much of their story because it's private. But it's it's my third mother and father planning on having a child, and we're still in the preconception phase of the educational program. It's online. And if you're interested, contact me specifically. We're moving it forward. I would like to make it a book, but I'm just so picky about who I'm working with and making sure that it turns out perfect. The best I got. That's all I got. I'm going to give you the best I got. There is a leadership training model, and I want to let the audience know. And Scott, thank you for letting me plug this. The teacher trainer model for Legends of Creation. I designed it because it gives the opportunity for midwives and doulas to have another job, and that's teaching Legends of Creation. It's a 15-month course, right? So, and this will be at whatever you'd like to charge. I mean, you can charge as low as $35 an hour for your session, or if you have wealthy clients, you can charge more. We just wanted to make sure that it wasn't centric on, it wasn't economic centric. So, but it allowed the individual to have a job. And the idea of the teacher trainer model is normally it's a 2-month class that normally costs $1,200 to do. Today, through this show, I'm offering it for $200. And that's a 2-month class that allows anybody that would like to become a teacher trainer of Legends of Creation, contact me. I'm going to have a group of people, probably 15 to 20, who start the class and go through, the 2 months all together, and learn about what this is all about and how to apply it in your life. So we can get started. We can get clear. We can move forward. We can transcend and include rather than repress and deny our greatness. And we can do that together. That's what Changing the Story is all about. And I have been inspired my whole life to bring this to the world. And I'm working with some of the top people in the world in this context of birth psychology. I'm so great. I do want to do a shout out to Dr. Jean Houston. I think she's watching tonight, and her team, as well as Bruce Lipton and his team. They've all cheerled me, and they're all my mentors. And I just want to say, oh, thank you for that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. So there it is. What a beautiful image. And Jean, if you're watching, it's good to connect. Jean's been on this show before. Legends of Creation, Preconception, Education, and Prenatal Bonding. And I can see that our audience is getting really lit up. Now, what's the best way for them to contact you? I do have your birthinghumanity.org website. Is that the best?
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for saying that. I don't know how much time I have left. I get super excited when we do these calls because it's nobody cares.
We're the home stretch, partner, home stretch.
Okay. Well, thank you for Birthing Humanity. There's some big, wonderful things that are coming out of the book. And thank you, Scott. The wonderful, beautiful thing that's coming out of the book is a script called Birthing Humanity. And I'm a unique animal in the sense that I've been working on radical wholeness and bringing balance to the world for my whole adult life. And so I've been working with the homeless for the last 15 years, and I've been working in prenatal for the last 30 years in the prenatal psychology and development. So it's really given me the tools to write a script that was very clear about two couples, Emma and Jake. They're the protagonists in this screenplay that I've written called Birthing Humanity. And it's awesome, guys. It's a journey of these two couples, and they're genius couples. It's kind of like best way to describe this movie is how do I say it? I would say it's what was the movie by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck? Oh gosh, now I can't remember. I'm thinking too fast. Oh shoot. I'm so sorry. It's called it's the one with Robin Williams that he did, Scott. What was the one with Matt Damon, Robin Williams, and Ben Affleck?
Good Will Hunting.
Thank you. I just got stuck. Good Will Hunting. So it's really the Good Will Hunting for humanity, and how to address genius like Robin Williams did, and how to deal with trauma like Robin Williams did. Robin Williams was the mentor for Matt in this story, to help him with his traumas and to help him with his genius. And I thought that was a very unique, interesting, beautiful, powerful movie, timely movie, man. You know, it really was. It was cool because we just identified with the characters. And geez,
So
stoked.
Joseph, because we got to wrap up, because I'm going to take
Yep.
it back to you, although we love the movie Good Will Hunting. But the best way to reach him, I believe, is if you go to birthinghumanity.org, you can watch the video, and if you scroll down, then that's where you can
Yep.
join the movement. Put in your name,
Yep.
and that's the best way, I'm imagining, for people to reach you.
Well, and please just simply put my email for now out there. I'm okay. I'm not. I haven't got hundreds of thousands of people bothering me just yet, Scott.
And
So, yeah.
but I want to read it to people then, because most people watching are watching on Facebook. So if you're going to write to him, it's Joseph at harmonichumanity.org. Joseph, Joseph at harmonichumanity.org. And I would love to continue, but we've got a special thing that's about to happen, and we've got Melissa Fike, and we've got 2 more Omoshar songs. So again, this is just a little homeopathic dose of your wonderful medicine, Joseph. But I can see you really lit up our audience, and you may want to stay on and chat with our audience using the chat box, because I think people might have some questions for you.
Thank you, Scott. I just want to say thank you. You're awesome. And I really appreciate the platform to speak love into truth. And you're just, you're a display of what's possible in a mythic culture, and you're bringing it, man. And I just want to say thank you. And I'm grateful.
We appreciate you too. And thank you for the wonderful work you're doing. God bless you, bro. And we'll talk privately about the other things we started talking about.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
Thanks, Scott.
We're going to get to Melissa Fike in a moment, but I have a very special treat. Straight back from Japan, after going through a rather remarkable resurrection, if you will, one of our absolute favorite luminaries is dropping in to share something very special. And I am talking about the one and only, drum roll please, is Marty Casey. Hey, Dr. Marty.
Oh, wow. Hello, Scott, and hello to the Awakening family. Wow. Thank you so much for the invite to just drop in and just kind of share with you all a little bit of my experience of what took place in Japan. What an amazing event it was all week. But I had no clue that I was going to be entering on a roller coaster ride. I shared in another space earlier that upon my arrival, before I even got off the plane, they opened up the overhead bin, and you hear the announcement all the time, be careful when you open the overhead bin because things could fall out. Well, that's exactly what happened. I was leaning over in my seat, and someone opened up their overhead bin when a jug of water fell out and hit me in the back of my head and shoulder kind of area. And so that's how my trip began. But that was almost, if you will, to me, it was a clue of what was to come, that I got hit with a jug of water, because what I was not doing was drinking enough water. And because I had not been drinking enough water, and we were traveling, we arrived in Tokyo. We was there for a few days, and then we went on to Mount Fuji for a few days, and then we ended in Hiroshima for a few days. And through that travel on the bus, on planes, trains, bullet trains, you name it, we were in cars, we were taxis, we were walking, we were doing a lot of things. And what I really want to just remind everyone is that especially in the space that we sit in, as I just heard Joseph speak about, we sit in a place of healing and helping others with their trauma and their self-care, but we're the last ones to really kind of fuel ourselves up. And I am notorious for that, and it caught up with me. And so here we are on that second leg of that trip in Mount Fuji, beautiful Mount Fuji, and may peace prevail on earth center. And as we have, just experienced some of the most amazing events that one could experience. I'm making my way back down the path and going inside of the center after we had been sitting outside in the hot sun, beaming down on me, and I was profusely sweating, but I'm a warm natured person anyway. And so I said, well, I'll just cool off once I get inside and I'll take a seat. But I started to get dizzy, and it was lunchtime, but I wasn't hungry. I started to feel like my stomach was cramping, and just head was getting light. And all of a sudden, I just wanted to if I could just lie down. And so I made my way to the floor. I started, I just laid there, and someone come and was fanning me. And I didn't want to make a scene. And so I said, as if me laying in the middle of the floor was not a scene, but I said, don't fan, don't worry, I'll be okay. And then I tried to make my way up to get up to go to the restroom. I couldn't make it there. I had to sit down immediately on the bench, and the room started spinning. As I got ready to stand again, this is where I fainted, and friends were right there to gently lay me down on the ground. And all I wanted to do was go to sleep. I just really felt an overwhelming need for the peace of sleep to come over me. And I knew that I was between two realms, because I could still hear the voices of those around me, but they were way far away. They were so far down the hall. And so as I've been speaking of this, is that I understand some say there's a stairway to heaven, but I say there's a hallway, because I truly was trying to decide, do I put my hand on the door and take eternal rest? Or do I still listen to try to hear those who were far, far away in this hallway? I can feel them pouring water on me. I can hear them talking about calling the ambulance, and should they call my husband, and all of these things. And I couldn't answer. I wanted to talk and speak, but I really couldn't have a full conversation. I was able to answer in like one word responses, yes, no. And I wanted to say more. I was thinking more, but I just couldn't verbalize it. And I could not open my eyes. They kept asking me to open my eyes, but I couldn't. My eyes just wanted to stay shut and just be in the, and as I kept my eyes shut, I felt myself just peacefully drifting. Now, if you think about it, just a few days before being hit in the head, the one thing that they say, if you may have a concussion, you don't want that person to fall asleep. And so I was, at that time, my body had just been so beat up, and it was just really requiring that rest. And now I'm in the ambulance, and the first responders are speaking Japanese, and our Rev Deb that I know that the family knows here was in the ambulance with me. I call her now my guardian angel. Rev Deb was there, and along with one of the Segoy's family, and daughters was there. And I was just so appreciative as they were just really taking care of me. But what I really wanted to share, Scott, and that's why I'm so grateful that you have given me this opportunity to come into the space, is the takeaway. After I got to the hospital and they wanted to check my head, I declined for them to do that. But they did do an IV, and I was able to get the IV drip. And all of a sudden, maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, my eyes popped open. And when my eyes popped open, everybody in the room was like, "Oh, her eyes are open. She's back. She's back." And I could just feel relieved that they could see that I was still with them, and I knew for a fact that I was going to be okay. But what I really want the takeaway to be is that we don't always speak each other's language, and we don't always understand what the other person is trying to say. But when we value each other's life, and we meet each other in the heart space of really taking care of each other from a place of humanity, life then can still be lived. We can still breathe together. We can still become together. We can still create together. They valued my life enough to fight for me, even though they didn't speak my language. They just did what they know to do for humanity's sake. And I valued life enough to fight for life to still be on this side of the veil, if you will, simply because I love the work that I've been called to do. And just within seconds, I could have gone down the hallway and turned the knob to the other side. And just like that, this conversation could be different versus you welcoming me to come into this room. You very well could be speaking about me in a whole different manner. So when I say to you, people say life is too short. I don't really use that term because I believe that life is just right. I believe that exactly the amount of time that we've been given on this earth to do the work is exactly the amount of time that we need to serve and to be valuable to one another. I don't believe that life is too short, but I do believe that life is unpredictable. And I saw that and witnessed and experienced that firsthand just a few days ago. I was in a very unpredictable state of mind, but I am here. And because I'm here, I am clearer now than I've ever been before of the work that I must do, who I must serve, why I must serve, and how I serve. I am grateful. I also tonight you're celebrating authors. I myself just released a book that is called In Her Power, in Her Wisdom, along with myself and Rebecca Now. And this is a women's guide on how to overcome challenges and growing in your power. I think I could write another chapter now just based off of what I just went through. But it's interesting that the chapter in the book is in the book, along with myself and 22 other women. I'm the first chapter, and it's called Born in Purpose. Born in Purpose. I
Wow.
almost died in
That's
purpose. And now
Marty.
I say I'm born in purpose once again. I am born again in purpose. And I just want everyone here by the sound of my voice, if I can just get everybody to just twinkle their fingers and smile at the same time. And this is just saying that we love and appreciate life, and we see you and we hear you and we love you. And as long as you can lift your hands up and smile and twinkle your fingers, know you have something to do. You have purpose. You have life to live. You have so much to give, so many people to serve. Continue to show up and be great. And don't you dare sweat the small stuff, because life is not too short, but it sure is unpredictable. I love you, Scott. And I thank you so much, brother, for allowing me to come in and twinkle some fingers and smile with family.
My pleasure, Marty. And I'm grateful that instead of me having to announce the passing of Marty Casey while she was in Japan, I get to instead introduce you and have you, and for us all, twinkle our feathers, twinkle our fingers together. Thank you so much, Marty. And do you have something happening on Friday that people can come to?
I do. So I am inviting, this is my way of sharing, and I would love to invite everyone to come and be in my Zoom room at 12 noon on Friday, Central Standard Time. I'm in the Midwest, and I want to not only share what I just shared with you, but I kind of want to break that down a little bit more and give you a few tools and techniques of some things that I've learned while I was in Japan. What an amazing, awesome, just loving country. Clean, very respectful, very honoring. And there are so many things that, as we see so many people really they put everything on the line. They sell everything, they give everything to come to America and to land in our land, because we have such an I would just say to be an American is truly an honor to be where we are. But we have so much going on right now. We could truly learn from so many other cultures and places. And I was a sponge while I was in Japan. I wanted to make sure that I came back with some medicine for America to say, I want to gather the best of what I'm seeing in Japan and bring it back to us. And I was just in Spain a few months ago, back in May, and I did the same thing while I was in Spain. So I want to just share culturally all those things that I've gathered that I believe are some of the best things, and bring it back so that we can continue to rise together, because we are one humanity. We are one world. There's different spaces and places you may go and be, which is wonderful and great. Nobody's greater than the next. But when we can share, when we can open up the table of humanity and share the good things, that's how we become better at being who we are.
Fabulous. Well, Marty, please put the link. People are, of course, asking right away for the link. So put the Zoom room link in. And while you put in the link, I'm going to read a few comments, and then we're going to hear an Omashar song, and then we're going to hear from Melissa. But some of the comments coming in, Charlotte LaFranc just says, what do you all feel? We love you, Marty. Joseph points out, twinkles are feathers. Yes, I got that confused. Fingers, not feathers. Ayada writes, Dear Dr. Marty, thank you for connecting with us tonight and sharing your experience in Japan. What a poignant reminder about being present and fully living every moment. I'm so glad that you are still with us, and it was only a passing experience. Kathy writes, the Japanese are steeped in tradition and respect their culture and their elders. Susan Blomquist writes, it took me years to understand the Japanese idea of flower arranging. It's probably a whole show around that. Susan Woolridge writes, so grateful to see you, Marty, here twinkling. So make sure you put that link into the chat box, Marty. So
I'm going to send it to you, Scott, so you can send it out to everyone. I'm going to send it over to you because I am having some issues with my computer. That's what took me a little minute to get in here. But okay. Can I just make one quick comment? Because you said feathers, and I don't think that was by accident. One of the things that took place during the tree ceremony when we were in Hiroshima, in the Hiroshima park, I heard Spirit say, go and find 3 feathers. And I don't know, when you just heard me say that out loud, what did you feel? What did you think? Well, that's exactly how I felt. Like, where am I getting ready to find 3 feathers? Like, okay, Spirit, did I just get hit in the head again? But I broke out of the circle and I started walking and I found 1 big feather. Then I started walking back and I found another feather on the ground, a big feather. And I just said, let me get back in circle. I don't want to be distracting. I looked down and there was a really small feather and I found it. I grabbed all 3 feathers. I couldn't believe I found all 3, like Spirit told me to find. And I said, well, how am I going to hold it together? I'm going to just hold it in my hand. And it says, turn around and look to find something to tie it together. I turned around and I kid you not, on the ground was some red string entangled in a leaf. I grabbed the red string and I tied all the feathers together. The feathers represented the ancestors of my people. And the tree itself represented the forgiveness that I needed to make on behalf of my ancestors in the trees. Because my ancestors, so many of them, lives were taken by trees. So Danalia helped me to basically have that exchange and release and bring about healing. The very next day, we were in ceremony and circle inside, now in Hiroshima. And as Sister Pat was speaking in the circle, she literally had 3 feathers tied together with string that I had not seen before. And she had it in her hand, 2 big feathers and a small feather tied with string. When I tell you the things that I was experiencing all week long was so mind-blowing, I still have yet to try to interpret and take it all in Spirit. But again, I say the one thing that came to me when I was in transition, and this is for all of us, we need to do more listening than speaking. And we need to listen with our eyes and our heart, not just our ears. If that makes any sense at all.
Absolutely. I think our audience picks
Listen
that up.
with your eyes and your heart, not just with your ears, but do more listening than speaking. And I believe that if we all follow this right now, Scott, we will begin to see the shift in the manifestation that we all have been praying for. Thank you again, my brother, and I'll see you soon. And
I
I'll
look
send you
forward
the
to it,
link to
Marty.
put in for
And we'll
everybody.
see you on Friday. We'll see you on
See you
Friday.
Friday.
Okay. Thank you, Marty. Love you so much.
Love you.
Wow. Well, that's a lot to digest. It's beautiful. I like Ayada's suggestion, so I'll create that. And it is time for our other Japanese envoy, Mr. Omashar, to give us his second of 3 songs tonight.
Yes.
Any thoughts about Marty and what
Good.
she's
Yes, I shall wrap it up. First, Joseph Jacques, I am so impressed with what you brought to our table and the work that you're doing with the homeless. And really, it is something we all need to be aware of. And I feel a calling for that. And as a result of your sharing, I've changed the song that I am going to play tonight to a song that I wrote recently. And I played it before on the show, however, it's called Just a Breath Away. And in honor of Marty, I think I'm going to call it Hallway to Heaven, because I witnessed Marty fall and rise and fall and rise and fall and rise. And she is now my new mascot for the Phoenix. And so every time I think of the Phoenix, Marty will come to mind. Maybe not every time, but because I've just affirmed it, it probably will happen. And the serendipity, bring Joseph back on, please, Scott. The serendipity of Joseph and Marty being on this show tonight. Do you know each other? No, well, you should. Not should, but you should, because the work that Marty does with her Angan Institute and the work that Joseph does with his harmonic humanity is so serendipitous that you meet tonight. And you have I think Joseph has a piece that could be inserted even before that which you espouse with your, not drop roll and whatever it is, but you have a saying. We won't go into it now because we're out of time. However, I'm just saying that because I feel it. And now I'm going to sing the song, what is it? Hallway to Heaven. Yeah. So let's take a deep breath, all of us. Let's get out of our heads for just 4 minutes. Put your hands on your hearts, because we're going to greet beloved Melissa in a minute. And let's get prepared, because we just taken in a lot, as Scott said, and let's just digest that. All right. When you feel like giving up, when you feel like letting go, living in this ever-changing world, when it seems that all is lost and you don't know where to turn, the future seems so very far away. So just know there really is a plan. The sun will always shine, and with your hand in mine, our heaviness fades away. The love in our hearts will melt the darkest day. Ba-da-dum-bum-bum.
So when it seems that you're alone and the fears knock at your door, remember I am just a breath away. You are my brightest star. You've just forgotten who you are. Remember there is nothing in the way. And just know there really is a plan. The sun will always shine, and with your hand in mine, all heaviness fades away. The love in our hearts will melt the darkest day. So when you feel like giving up, when you feel like letting go, remember I am just a breath away. And just know there really is a plan. The sun will always shine, and with your hand in mine, all heaviness fades away. The love in our hearts will melt the darkest day. The love in our hearts will melt the darkest day. The love in our hearts will melt the darkest day. Ba-da-dum-dum-dum. Ba-da-dum-dum-dum. The love in our hearts will melt the darkest day.
Let's all twinkle our beloved brother Omar Shah, who helps our hearts melt away. Absolutely. And hey, I want to remind everybody that we can best get Omar Shah music by going to Bandcamp. If you go to his name, omarshar.bandcamp.com, that's where you'll find his 5 albums. You can follow him. And of course, he's here every Wednesday and Saturday night on The Awakening World, which is such a blessing. And he has one closing song for us tonight after we hear from Melissa. Thank you so much, Omar Shah. Love you so much.
You too, brother, and all of us.
That's really beautiful. You know, I have had the good fortune to spend time with Melissa when I've been in Sedona. She's been on the show a few times, including last week. And when I learned about this book that she wrote, I thought, oh my God, we've got to have her on Authors That We Love, because she is an author that we love. So thank you, Melissa, for coming back on so quickly. And thank you for, I always love how you moved the music and you smile, and you're just a wonderful, wonderful guest. And I really always appreciate when you're with us. Thank you so much.
That's because I love you, Scott.
I love you too. A little bit about Melissa, for those of you who don't remember or who are seeing her for the first time. She is a best-selling author and a channel, and she supports people's spiritual adventures by becoming connected and conscious creators of their own lives. She's all about helping us to learn how to raise our vibration and align with our authentic path. She uses metaphysical topics, ancient practices, and the Akashic Records. We're going to learn all about that tonight from her. The Akashic Records on the quantum field to help us to heal and transcend our past lower frequencies. She is the best-selling author that we love of A Radical Approach to the Akashic Records. Master Your Life, Raise Your Vibration. She's the creator of Activating Ascension Classes, Intuitive Development Certification, and Akashic Records Certification. So she's doing a lot. And why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about your reality on the Akashic Records? You know, we hear about that, but as someone who's studied it and understands it, what are the Akashic Records? How do they work?
That's a really good question. So the interesting thing about the Akashic records is that there are levels to the records, and most people think that when they think of the Akashic records, they're actually thinking of the earth records. And in the Vedas, they're very clear that there are actually levels to the records. And for the earth records, I'll go into that first. The earth records hold all the information, past, present, future, and parallel experiences of the earth and the dimensions that are related to the earth, like the fairy realm and other dimensional frequencies, plants and animals. So all the records that are held there are imprinted in the Akashic records on the earth plane. And that's where most people connect with. And I'll share my story of what happened. And about, I think it was like, I'm guessing around 2015, I was downloaded in an instant all about this, that we need to stop looking at lifetime after lifetime, that they said we need to work with the whole pattern. We need to clear complete patterns of karmic patterns instead of trying to like do like baby steps. We want chunks. And they were talking about the Akashic records, and I argued, of course, and I said, you know, I have many guides. I work with a lot of different beings, multi-dimensional beings, and I said, oh, the Akashic records, I'm really not interested in doing past life work. I've done it in the past. And they said, no, this is about really transcending the karmic patterns that are keeping people stuck so that they can clear those karmic patterns and really anchor in their higher consciousness and be more on purpose in life. And I said, well, I'm interested in that. And they said, well, we want you to start working in the, what they showed me were these records in the quantum field. And they're also considered the galactic Akashic records. But basically, these records hold all the information of creation of our galaxy. And there's other Akashic records, by the way, but this is where we are right now. So it holds all the information of the records of anything that's ever happened, past, present, future, including creation itself, and including all the collective consciousnesses, all the possibilities that could happen, cultures, transcending cultural systems, moving past old genetic issues and things like that. So what they said is if we work here, this is a living energy. And it's different than the earth records. The earth records actually hold, it's literally written in stone, I guess you'd say. But the galactic records, those records are a living frequency. So if you've come here, and I loved what Joseph was talking about. This is really interesting because Joseph was talking about trauma in the womb and all that. And I've actually studied that in epigenetics and I've actually worked with healing people through the beginning and their whole conception and the whole thing. I've actually worked with people to transcend some of their trauma from just the that whole experience of egg and sperm into a baby being born. And there's a lot of trauma that can happen in that energy. But one thing that I was going to say about Joseph is that remember the mitochondria that is you, right? You have mitochondria, which is the energy of the cells. That was created in you when you were 3 months gestation in your mother's womb. So, and it's only passed down through the women's genetic line. So you actually didn't just experience your lifetime, but you've also experienced your mother's lifetime. And because of that, you have these traumas and lower states of consciousness is really the way I like to look at that are holding you back from being who you truly are. And it doesn't mean that it's good or bad. It just means, you know, personally, like I'm always looking for how can I hold my center? How can I be love? How can I practice love? How can I hold a higher consciousness? Because I actually believe that we're transcending these lower states of consciousness for the collective. And the more of us that can do that and hold those higher states of consciousness, we're actually feeding the collective for the ascension. And for me personally, I try to let go of fear, duality, and needing to be right and all those other egoic things that sometimes keep us trapped in recycling in the reincarnation recycling center. So, because attachment is what keeps us recycling, basically. So these Akashic records are a living energy and they literally transcend different things. And I can watch how it all unwinds. It's really fascinating. To me, what Spirit has told me that when we're doing this work, we're healing on the mental, physical, emotional levels in the DNA, in the cellular memory, along the genetic line, which is very, very important, and in the Akashic records, and sometimes culturally. When I mean culturally, I mean somebody who's enmeshed in a really strong cultural their culture is strong. Americans, our culture is kind of like a hodgepodge of a lot of different cultures. So it's not like the Japanese, like they have a very powerful culture. And when I've worked with anyone from Asia, from Japan, China, Malaysia, I've worked with clients all over the world. And when I have to help them culturally, also to transcend some things for them. So yeah, that's the gist of the bigger picture of the Akashic record.
Wow. So when somebody gets your book, what are they going to experience? Like what does the book serve as terms of tools and bridge?
Yeah, I love tools. They are my favorite thing. So I have meditations in there and I tell people you can buy the ones I make, but really honestly, they're all written out. People record them themselves and do the meditations. What you're learning is how these records can help you really look at the bigger patterns in your life and the places that are holding you back from really fully being who you truly are. And we all have these identity pieces. And I don't mean like I'm a mother, I'm a friend. I don't mean those identity. I mean the things that are at our core. Like I am a victim. I am unworthy. And those things that are, we hide them, right? So we'll say, no, I'm not those things. I'm not. And, but when we hide them, we lose ourselves in them because we're trying to even hide them. And it's easy to really look at the family karmic patterns because when you look at your family's karmic patterns and you can transcend pieces of them, it doesn't have to be perfect, but as you transcend little parts of them and pieces, you are actually helping the whole genetic line and the collective consciousness. And that's why I've had people who have taken my certification and training, and I've worked one-on-one with a lot of people. And I wanted to share kind of what they say because I know what I experienced, but I want to tell you what they're telling me. I just had one of my clients. She was taking the training. She said, "Melissa, this is life changing because I'm transcending things that I've been working on for 10 years instantaneously. And this is changing how I'm perceiving my own life and how I'm perceiving what I thought happened to me in the past because my story has changed. I've changed and my story has changed. I'm not as attached to my story. And that's really the key because it's really our ego's story that keeps us again in that recycling center. And, you know, I think with this book, what I also hear a lot of people say, it has over 1,800 five-star reviews. And of course, other reviews, because people don't, I mean, not everybody vibes with it. But what I hear a lot is it's very easy to read, but it's really deep. And I've had people show me the book and they're like, Melissa, this is the book, by the way. Isn't that a beautiful cover?
It is gorgeous. Absolutely
Thank
gorgeous.
you. Yeah, I'm kind of still in love with it. It's been 6 years, and it'll be all marked up because they'll say I've read it four times. So look, I think that whatever resonates with people, a lot of people think the Akashic records are just about past lives, but it's really about transcending things, places, or things and beliefs and the patterns that are holding you hostage. Even if you're not aware of them, you'll start bringing them through and seeing that. And as soon as you start connecting to those records, things just start unwinding and clearing really easily.
Melissa, I've heard from different guests over the past few years that we can change our past because there is no time. There's just the perception of time, that actually choices we make now and even kind of karmic resolution can literally change our past. Is that part of what you've learned and experienced in this work?
I know it. I know it changes because the galactic records, it's so interesting. The galactic records, like I said, they are a living energy. So it's literally a living frequency. And the story is changed in those records because now this is the thing with the human realm and the earth plane, we are recycled. And that's what reincarnation is we're recycled. Some people have chosen to come here. I know where I came from, and I know I chose to come here at this time. I know it, and I'm perfectly happy being here. But I also knew coming in, I'm going to be recycled because that's kind of the energy of the earth plane. We reincarnate. So what I was told from the records is that if you rewrite your story, then you're no longer attached to that. You're no longer attached to the trauma. You're no longer attached to the emotions. You're no longer attached to the people who are associated with those issues or belief systems or traumas. And then you no longer attached to the story or anything around it. And now you don't have to recycle because you're no longer attached to the earth plane, because that's what's keeping us recycling. And that's what's keeping us from ascending quicker. Because if we are attached to the human, then we are attached to the earth, and then we can't ascend as quickly. And that's my passion. My passion is really about, there's two things. My passion is about helping others. I can't help but help. I'm a helper. That's just what I do. And the other thing is really ascension. Like that is that's in my blood. Like I just love it so much. Spirituality, ascension, like that is my super passion. So when I look in the records and I see how people have transcended these things, the whole records become rewritten. So, for instance, a story of mine of abuse as a child, it's funny, I don't even think that would come to my awareness, except I have to explain it to people because I'm doing this work, right? But even when I think about it, I have it means nothing to me. And I'm sure a lot of the people here who are watching this or on the call now, they probably feel that some of their story, it's like, that happened, but I remember it, but it doesn't mean anything. Like I have no triggers in my body. But some of the people I work with, like their whole body is in constant anxiety or in like this fight, flight, freeze, hide. Their adrenaline is constantly pumping. And when they work and they find that peace, because we transcend and rewrite the records. Now we are not rewriting. So I'm not going in there going, take this piece out, add this. I'm helping you transcend on all those levels that I talked about. And you could do this yourself. It's actually pretty easy. You move through those things, then the records themselves that the records do the healing, the records do the transformation, the records do the rewriting. I do nothing. I'm just really good at witnessing
Wow.
and loving.
Well, I do know that you have a very, very loving presence, Melissa. You're a very, very, very loving person. Now, do you provide are you available for coaching for people to work with one-on-one?
Oh yeah, yeah, I do. I do a mentorship. I call it a mentorship because I help people not only transcend some of these things, but also to I help them like with life stuff as far as we need to transcend some of the ego stuff, right? So it's not just the trauma, but it's also the ego and the ego stories and things like that that we have to help ourselves let go of. I do that. And the other thing I do Akashic readings, but I also do Akashic clearings where I'll do like a clearing on someone and I'll look at what's in the Akashic records. I never know what's going to show up. So I have the mentorship, which is the healing, which is a longer term. I tell people this is what the records have told me. I don't know if this is true, but when they work with me, they will transcend about 80 to 80%, 80 to 85% of their karmic patterns. And people tell me all the time who I was when I started to work with you and who I am now is completely different. And I have to say that's such a beautiful gift that I feel really honored and blessed. To be honest, Scott, I am very, it's weird. Like, I don't always like to talk about this a lot, but I feel that I have something that is a gift of really seeing how we entangle these energies and how they are so entangled that I can find pieces to help unwind them so that they actually, my passion is to help people become, come home to themselves.
Hmm. Just taking that in, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Melissa. Want to really encourage people. Susan Woolridge has ordered your book.
Oh,
Uh,
thanks.
so, well, to order the book, let's talk about that. You can find it on Amazon, and I put the link into the chat box. But since most of the people are watching on Facebook, just go to Amazon and a radical approach to the Akashic records. And pretty much, if you just put in Akashic records, Melissa Fike, it shows up real easily. So you can get the book on Amazon, and also she has a Kindle edition and an audiobook. So, like I do audibles, so that's how I, keep track of the books that I want to listen to. And I'm certainly going to want to listen to this now, Melissa. And then to reach Melissa, go to her website, and it's easy to get there because it's her name. And she spells it Melissa. That's pretty easy. And her last name is Fike, Feick, melissafike.com. And that's where you can learn all about. And there's, of course, her Akashic Records intuitive reading. That's where you can learn about how to be part of her mentorship program, be part of her training. You're doing a lot, Melissa. My gosh, it's pretty amazing how much you're doing. Of course, there's her book. Again, there's the link that'll take you to Amazon. So all things Melissa do exist at melissafike.com. And yes, I want us to raise our vibration immediately. God knows our world needs to raise our vibration.
Yeah, it's really about heart-centered awareness. And the thing is the lower it's really interesting. Can I share this? So I'm telepathic. So I see, feel, hear, like it's like everything at once. But what I see is like this dense material in people. It's all those lower emotions and the fears and the things that we're holding on to. And I can see it, but it's super dense. It's like granite. It's impenetrable. You can't penetrate it. And when we release these things, that denseness leaves. And what happens when denseness isn't there? you have more availability to anchor in your higher consciousness. And I have to say, that's blissful because the more you bring in that who you truly are, you can't help but love. You can't help but come from your heart.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Well, you're a big hit with the Susans of the awakening world. Susan Woolridge has bought the book and wants to schedule a clearing. Susan Bloomquist writes, I also appreciate the way you're speaking about these things. You're talking about the journey of life. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
And Melissa, do you have a particular demographic group you enjoy working with? Or do you work with all people with?
I have, honestly, I think because my book has done so well, I have clients from all over the world. And honestly, I really feel that wherever I'm supposed to be of service is in alignment. And I've also helped people really transcend some cultural things. When someone comes here and they have chosen a culture that has a lot of trauma associated with it, or a religion, that has a lot of trauma. I'll take Judaism as an example. When I have somebody who has Jewish blood and that trauma that they have, when we can transcend it culturally, we're actually transcending it for the collective.
Mm.
So it's fascinating. It's beautiful.
Mm. It's interesting you say that. Susan Woolridge wrote, who's going to schedule a clearing with you and bought your book. She says, I'm having to deal with 100% Ashkenazi German, Russian, Jewish stuff. So there you have it. There's a good example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And those people, those light workers have come here to transcend the things for their culture, because we have to do that for the ascension. So whenever I'm in the records and I see that, I feel so honored that they are here. I'm like, I'm so honored to be in your presence because you're here to do something that's not easy, because that means we're taking on that energy, we're taking on that trauma when we incarnate here, but it's a gift. And we know that we do it through love. We do it through because we want to help the ascension.
Mm. And like you said, I know that you love ascension. And in your reality, what do you believe is our ascension timeline, if you will, or any words on that? Because I think all of the people on this show, all of our audience members are interested in ascension.
Yeah, I mean, from what I gather from the councils that I work with and the Akashic records, the Galactic Akashic records, this is not uncommon. There are many planetary systems that have gone through the same experience and the same ascension process. We actually are utilizing a blueprint that has already been created. And so they reuse the blueprints, right? Like an architect will kind of reuse a blueprint. So we take a blueprint from a planetary system that's already ascended, and we use our own consciousness to shift and change that blueprint. So it's not like something outside of us is creating the ascension. We are active participants in the ascension, whether you know it or not. Whether you are somebody who like believes in the ascension and spirituality, or you're just, watching football and drinking beer, with nothing wrong with that. But there's a different consciousness, but everyone is feeding that blueprint. So it's being recreated right now. The way I'm seeing it, we're creating the blueprint for our ascension, because it has to be unique for each system. It's not just everybody does it the same way. We have different experiences, different, the earth, right?
Yeah.
So we're in it together. And to be honest, it is not overnight, my friends, unfortunately. But the beauty is that we are at the precipice, which is the most exciting time and the most tumultuous time. obviously. Right, duh. So because of that, because it's that time period and very tumultuous, it's because the old energy of control and fear and wanting to be right is pushing against love.
Hmm.
And that fear and wanting to be right, it's trying to pull really hard to keep the love in control. And we're to go, I love you, fear anyway. I see that you're in, I see that the collective's in fear. I just hold love. And that's the way I do it, but everybody has to do their own what feels correct to them and what feels like it's in alignment.
Hmm. Well, Melissa, I want to be part of the ascension process with you. And I look forward to more experiences with you both in person. Of course, I'll be in Sedona in November. Many of our Global Peace Tribers will be there, and I hope you'll be one of our teachers, one of our presenters at the retreat in mid-November up at Louisa Stowe's beautiful retreat site. And get her book, learn about the Akashic Records, or book an appointment to work with this wonderful, wonderful angel of ascension. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Love you, Scott. Thank you. Bye. I love you guys.
Love you too. All right. Two quick Global Peace Tribe announcements, and then we're going to close out with a third and final song from Omoshar. This Saturday night show is going to be very unique. Usually on Saturday nights I have from 4 to 7 guests, but this Saturday night we're only going to have 2. And each one is going to actually have an hour to take you through a process. And the theme of the show is greater health, vitality, and nervous system regulation. Pramagaya is a very dear friend of mine, and she has over 20,000 people who have taken her course on nervous system regulation. And Carrie Chinner, you might remember, was on the show before, and she just gave us a little tiny dose of her amazing work. So it's going to be a powerful but a different kind of a show on Saturday night. It's going to be a little bit deeper and a chance for us to really go deeper in what we learn for these 2 amazing women. But of course, we will have Omoshar to do 3 songs for us to lighten everything up. So please do join us on Saturday night. And then a reminder that the Zoom rooms that you all have for this season are ending on Saturday night. Next week, it's a new season, new Zoom rooms. Thank you to all of you who have registered already, joined us. Every time I see the registration come in, a little, oh, Eleanor Joy just joined. Ian joined. Jerry Anderson joined. And it makes my heart smile every time I see one of you resubscribing. So thank you very, very much. And for anybody who's watching on Facebook or on YouTube, it's really easy to join the Global Peace Tribe. And now's the time to do it because we are just starting a brand new season. So go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com, and you'll learn all about our upcoming shows and what we're doing. And then click register for the new season. And that takes you to our registration page. And you can come in at several different levels. We do a show every Wednesday night and every Saturday night. And once a month, we do a Sacred Sunday show. And we do a lot of special events. And by the way, our Sacred Sunday show will be not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, again, in collaboration with Soul Search. So join us. And I'll put into the Zoom room the link for registration for all of you that are in our Zoom room. Thank you so much for being with us. And I'm going to turn it over to our beloved brother, Omoshar. And it's so good to have him back from Japan and by our side. I was scrambling. For those of you on Saturday night, when I didn't have Omoshar and the videos I was supposed to have from all my interviews weren't there, I was juggling plates. So it's good to have you back with us, brother. And take it away.
It was also good, brother, to see what a master plate juggler you are. I used to, back in the day with my grandfather, he used to love watching vaudeville shows, and they literally had about 10 poles up there, and they put a plate on top of each one, and they spin and spin and spin it, and he had the plate spinner would have the consciousness to do what whatever happened, even if 1 or 2 or 3 fell, and you are the master of that. So there we are. And I'm kind of speaking about my grandfather because during the Japan event, when we were at Mount Fuji, I had my grandparents come to me so strongly, and that I was carrying their line, and that I was carrying specifically the mother's line from my mother and my grandmother. And this is relating to what Melissa was saying, which is why I'm bringing it up. And they literally came here, that they were carrying me to this point and keeping me free enough in my life to consciously raise, to write my music and be on this show, for instance. Where am I going with this? And so, but us being raised lifts them also. And so the whole lineage gets lifted. And this song, Melissa, is for you, and it's called Out of the Blue, and it's a short metaphysical pop song, and it's about whatever happened to the ones that came before. Did they just vanish into the blue? Maybe they're living the dream that we know to be true and reaching their hands back out of the blue. And so here we are. And I'm just going to change a couple of things. First, I have to put a rock star background on, then change the thingamajig. This one, and this.
Right. Whatever happened to the ones that came before? Did they just vanish into the blue? Maybe they're living the dream we know to be true, and reaching their hands back out of the blue. My heart is so ready to embrace all that's new. I feel the love calling for me to break on through. With peace on my mind, I know that I'm coming to a new way of life that feels so true. All right, here we go. There's nothing here to hold me back from you. The clouds of my life have blown away. My lightness of being lifts me every day. I find myself feeling not so blue. Heart is so ready to embrace all that's new. I feel the love calling for me to break on through. With peace on my mind, I know that I'm coming to a new way of life that feels so true.
Let's all twinkle, Omashar. Let's all twinkle each other, twinkle our feathers, twinkle our fingers. And it was beautiful. Another wonderful show. Thank you, Omashar. Welcome back. Look forward to seeing all of you on Saturday night. God bless you all. Thank you to our wonderful guests, Melissa, and Carolyn and Jacques. And this is your love coach, Scott Katamas, saying thank you. Have a beautiful evening, everybody.
Did
See-
you share Marty's Zoom link, or are you going to send it to us?
It's in there, honey. I put it in the chat box.
I'll resend it
Thank
to
you. I
Sylvia.
didn't see it
Okay.
yet. So
Yeah, it's in the chat box. You know what I'll do is I'll or maybe somebody can see it and put it back in. Yeah, there it is. So I'm copying it and I'm putting it in one more time. There you go.
thank you.
Take care, everybody. God bless you. See you Saturday. Well, maybe see you on Friday at Marty.